Hi, welcome to the Unspoken Collective. My name is Rebecca. Thank you for coming back and welcome. This is your first video and I hope that you enjoy the journey and you stay with us. So today's video is about self-love. This is the beginner's guide to self-love, and in this part I thought I would split it between two videos. So the first are going to be the questions that you ask yourself and the steps, and the second video are going to be the actions. So in the first video we gather all of that information and you can either write it down or if you want to keep it, mental notes. And then the next video, the actions, are going to be those progressive steps towards the self-love journey. So what is self-love? Self-love and self-care I think are interchangeable, but self-love is more about the spiritual work that you do. It's all internal. Self-love does turn to self-care when it's external, so your hair, your nails, but it's all a form of self-love. So the first questions that you need to ask yourself, and if you want to write this down then you can do. I'm going to put a timestamp in the description box below so you can have these questions to look at and to make your notes on, as well as the steps as well. So the first question is, do you really want to start this journey? Now you may be thinking, well, I'm on this video, of course I want to start this self-love journey, but are you prepared for what you might find out? I think I'm making it sound a bit more dramatic than it is, but I guess in a way it is quite hard going, because we don't always want to put in the work, especially when you know that it's going to be a hard journey, painful. It might make you uncomfortable. So are you ready to face whatever ugly truths may arise? The second question is, how much is going on in your life right now that is affected by external factors and what's affected by you? So it could be a triggering event, it could be a breakup, it could be something at work that happened, it could be some altercation or something in a friendship that you don't really agree with, or family. Is it something that is affecting you from external factors, or is it how you feel about yourself? And this is a very important question, because sometimes we're ready to blame other people for things that actually are our problems. So that's the first question. Is it other people or is it you? The third question, how do you feel about yourself right now? This might make you feel uncomfortable. I know that it made me feel uncomfortable asking myself that, because when I started my self-love journey, I was in denial at the beginning, and it was a very long, painful journey. And when I started my self-love journey, honestly, I had nothing left. So it was either I started this or I continued down, feeling really bad about myself and not feeling as though I had a lot to give. And it's very important that you can realize that how you feel can affect how you interact with other people. The fourth question, do you know your authentic self? Sometimes we're conflicted with who we portray, with who we really are. And we actually have a video on this, so we'll have that showing at the end of this video, so you can go back to that one if you don't know your authentic self or how to go about it. But sometimes if you're not yourself, if you don't feel as though you're being true to who you are, you feel as though you're living a lie, you're living, you know, like as if you're a double agent. So sometimes you have to really find out, at your core, are you your authentic self? Do you feel like who you believe you are is being shown, and are you able to show that into the bigger world without it being affected by how other people may perceive you? The fifth question is, what do you want to gain from this self-love journey? Now, you may feel as though you want to start it because admittedly it's become a bit of a trend now. Everybody says self-love and you should love yourself. And I always found when I was starting my journey and I was on Instagram or on, well, I only use Instagram, but when I was on Instagram, people would always say, self-love, love yourself. And I thought, oh my gosh, I really want to love myself, but how? And nobody really told you how to go about it. And does anyone actually have the answer? No, I think these steps and these questions that we're asking are pretty general, that I think anyone should be asking themselves anyway. But how you go about it with, you know, I will explain it more in the steps, but what you do to go about your self-love journey is going to be personal to you. But the general gist of loving yourself is so easy to say, and I felt as though I wasn't really feeling it. I was telling myself, yeah, I love myself, because someone on Instagram was telling me to love myself, but they weren't showing me how to. And if you've never really known how to love yourself, then it's not something that you can just do off the bat. It's always easier if you have a little bit of guidance. So that's what this is. And the sixth question is, are you ready to change your life? Sounds dramatic, right? I think it is pretty powerful once you learn to love yourself, once you have that self-confidence. Self-confidence without it going into the negatives of an ego, and that is a whole different video that we will actually do, the ego. But you do need part of the ego, which is the self-esteem and the self-confidence. And are you ready to embrace that self-confidence? Are you ready to embrace yourself? Are you ready to show the world who you really are and to feel good about yourself? You feel so good about yourself to the point that nothing that anybody says can affect you. You can take it in, you can reflect and go back to the questions and think, okay, is this something that I need to work on for myself, or is it just something that they are trying to deflect onto me? So if you feel as though it is something you can take on board, then you can listen to them. But you get to a point where people can't negatively say anything about you in spite and it to affect you. And I'm not to say that you will be there permanently, because self-love is a journey which never ends. So it's always a constant as you grow, as you develop new relationships, as you change jobs, as you gain weight, lose weight. You're always going to have to readjust, but you're always going to be on that self-love journey. So if you're ready to change your life, let's get on with the steps. Okay, so these are the 6 steps for your journey to self-love. The first one is write down everything about yourself, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself. You have to look within and think, okay, well, I know that I am a bit insecure, or I know that I do have a short temper, and write it down. It's going to be uncomfortable, and if you don't trust yourself to write down on a piece of paper or a book that you think someone else may see, maybe put it in your phone, and if your phone has a lock on it, which it should, but write down how you feel about yourself and be very, very honest with yourself, because in the long run you're going to thank yourself. Because when you're on this journey, you can't start the journey if you're not honest from the beginning. I tried it, I was in denial. I told myself, yep, I love myself, I don't have anything to work on. And in actual fact, I had a lot to work on, and I still do, but I'm a lot better now, and I'm in a place of comfort now with loving myself than I was when I started this journey. So after your first step of writing down everything that you feel as though you may need to work on, all of your ugly truths. The second step is to ask yourself how the people around you make you feel. Now, if you thought the first step was going to be uncomfortable, I think the second step is just as uncomfortable, because this isn't just about you. It doesn't mean that you can just look within or you can disregard. This is you looking at other people and then potentially having to have that conversation with them. How do your friends make you feel? Do you have genuine friends that will tell you when you're doing something great or when you're not doing something quite so great, or you're not walking in your path? Are your friends honest with you and say, you know, I felt as though that was a bit harsh, that whatever you said? Or do you feel as though your friends aren't necessarily genuine with you? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself. Relationships, if you're in a relationship now, or if you're single, or you're dating, how have people made you feel, or how is your partner making you feel now? Do they put you down about your weight? Do they call you names? Are they not as supportive? Do they make you feel as though you're not doing things in the way that they would want them to be done? Now, these are a bit dramatic, because I would hope that no one's in those kind of relationships that someone is putting you down. But sometimes the people around us, whether that's family, friends, your partners, people at work, sometimes they make us feel a certain way. And if you think about the questions, you know, is it actually people or is it you? This second step is to really acknowledge everything that the people around you do and how they make you feel. There are some people that are going to make you feel great about yourself, and you do the same in return. But there are some people that aren't going to be as supportive or aren't going to be as positive, and you need to be very honest and to think, well, actually, how you make me feel isn't great, and it has to be addressed. How you address it, we can go into that. We'll go into that in the actions. But the first part is making note and acknowledging. The first step to anything is to recognize, acknowledge, because you can't go forward if you don't know what you're dealing with. The third step, I think probably is my favorite one, is getting ready to set your boundaries. Now, this one I think is hard to do. It's something that I used to struggle with personally, setting your boundaries, knowing what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate, and making sure that it's very clear to anybody in your life where your boundaries are. It doesn't need to be done in a forceful way. You don't need to be malicious about it. You just need to diplomatically say, and very politely saying, these are my boundaries, please don't overstep them. And if people do, you tell them again, these are my boundaries, please do not overstep them. And if they can't get that, well, it may be the boot that they need. But we're going to talk about those boundaries, how to set them in the actions and how to reinforce those boundaries. But first you need to note down what the boundaries are. So if you don't like being called a certain word, for example, if someone keeps calling you, I don't know, if someone says, oh, you're such a dog, and you say, please don't call me a dog, that's a bad example. But the point is, you set your boundaries. If you don't like, you're in a relationship or a situationship, or you're dating somebody and you have work, you have college, you have university, and somebody is calling you at midnight and you have to get up and you don't want to engage in conversation, you have to let them know, please do not call my phone after 10 p.m. And if they can't understand that, again, please do not call my phone after 10 p.m. That's an example of setting your boundaries, but actually putting that into action, we will speak about in the next video. The fourth step is to invest in yourself with time. Money isn't always a necessity, and money isn't always an accessory for a lot of people. So what is more valuable than money is actually time. Time is something that we can't always get back, so we have to be careful and very mindful about how we spend our time. And what better way than to spend your precious time on you? So invest in yourself, invest in taking care of yourself, invest in sitting in your thoughts, invest in doing things that you really want to do. And how to effectively invest is all about making sure that you know exactly what it is that you want to do. Again, this goes back to the authentic self, finding out what it is that appeals to you and making sure that you invest in that for a better future for you. Because if you don't invest in yourself, you can't expect anybody else to. The fifth step, which is a lot kinder than the other steps, is to list all the things that you do love about yourself. Self-love doesn't necessarily mean that you don't love yourself. It doesn't mean that you aren't willing to invest in yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't think highly of yourself. But sometimes we can neglect certain areas of our life. So listing things that we do love about ourselves is also very important, because you need to be reminded that you are great, you are unique, you are wonderful, and you know, you are a pleasure to this earth. So listing down all the things that you love about yourself is a great way of reinforcing that self-love, and it gives you the foundation to build up from. And the sixth step, it's not really a step, it's more of a reminder, but it's just as important, is to take baby steps towards loving yourself. It's not something that happens overnight. As I said before, it's a continual journey that continues to develop and evolve as you grow older, as you grow wiser. So it's something that you need to remind yourself that you always need to take those progressive steps towards, but you don't have to expect yourself to go from feeling a bit low or feeling feeling bad about yourself to loving yourself unconditionally in a matter of months. Sometimes it could be months that it takes, sometimes it could be years. It depends where you are, but it is definitely attainable, and it's something that we can all work towards. But we all need to remember that, like anything that you want to change, it's going to take time, and for you to do it the right way, it's going to take a bit longer, but it's going to be a genuine love for yourself. So take those baby steps. Okay, so that concludes the first part of this video on the journey to self-love. So now we have our questions that we need to ask ourselves. We have the 6 steps as well, and the next video is going to be on those actions to follow each of those steps. This is going to be quite difficult for some people, but it's very, very important that you ask yourself these questions, and that you can consciously and mindfully take note of the steps that you need to take before we go into the actions. We're going to leave them, as I said before, I'm going to leave the questions and the steps in the description box below, so you can have a look at those and come back to this video whenever, because I know that some people like to jump to the juicy parts or jump to the points that are relevant to them, so they are going to be time stamped as well. So please have a look out for that. And as always, thank you so much for coming to the channel. Please like, please comment, please let us know if you found this video helpful, because we would love to put out helpful content for people to enjoy and to take something away from. And please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video, and as always, thank you for coming to the Unspoken Collective. We hope you enjoy your stay. Bye.